Did you know that you can decipher other people's thoughts using just 3 simple strategies? Let's take a look at what these strategies are and how to apply them. These skills are essential to overcoming any circumstance, as mastering them makes interpreting and understanding another's thoughts much easier. Let's look at a Stoic-themed story that illustrates how to decipher other people's thoughts. Be sure to watch this video to the end, give it a like, and share this video with your friends. Also, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other helpful videos. Let's get started. The story unfolds like this. In an ancient village lived 2 brothers. The older one was blind and spent most of his time at home, while the younger one practiced farming. Often, they found their field being ravaged by wild animals. The younger brother, concerned about this situation, finally came up with a solution. He thought, why not ask my blind brother for help in scaring the animals away from the field? He could be in the midst of the crops and alert upon hearing any sound of animals, thus protecting our crops. After some thought, the younger brother built a small hut in the field and moved his older brother there, explaining, "Brother, if you hear any suspicious noise, just shout and scare the animals away. It will save our crops." The older brother agreed to the suggestion and began to fulfill his role in the field. Every time he heard animal noises, he would let out a shout to scare them away. And so, it went on for several days. One day, a deer quickly crossed the field, damaging part of the fence before running away. Soon after, the king arrived on the scene in pursuit of the deer. The monarch turned to his blind brother and asked if he had seen the deer pass by. The blind brother replied, "Your Majesty, I am blind. How could I see a deer? However, I can assure you that the creature that escaped from my field is not worth hunting. You are wasting your efforts." The monarch was stunned by the blind brother's statements and questioned him about his knowledge. He had doubts whether the blind brother was telling the truth because, despite his blindness, he expressed an opinion about the importance of the deer. To this the blind brother replied, "Your Majesty, the creature you are pursuing is actually a pregnant fawn. I don't remember a monarch ever chasing a pregnant doe. Therefore, I consider your diligence to be futile and it is not worth wasting your efforts on it." The king was amazed to hear this and could not understand how a blind man could determine the condition of the fawn. He wondered how a person without sight could be so sure. Driven by a desire to make sure, he ordered his commander, to capture the animal alive. "I need to check if she's really pregnant. The blind brother seems to be very convinced, and I need to investigate. Please go and confirm her condition." The commander received the king's order and set off. When he returned, he confirmed to the king that the blind brother was right and that the fawn was indeed pregnant. The king, full of amazement, could not understand how the blind man knew that the fawn was pregnant. He wondered how the blind man could know this, how he could be so sure. Questioning the blind brother to unravel the mystery, the king said, "I may doubt that you are truly blind, but I have come to ask you a question. Are you ready to give me a truthful answer?" To this the blind brother replied, "Your Majesty, ask anything, and I will answer with complete sincerity." The monarch said, "You are a man of outstanding insight and seem to have a deep understanding of various issues. I called you today to find out if my husband is cheating on me." The blind brother replied, "Your Majesty, what made you ask such a question? Your union has lasted for many years. So why do such doubts arise in your mind now?" However, the king insisted, saying, "You must answer this question, otherwise you will face the death penalty." Faced with the monarch's threat, the blind brother said, "Your Majesty, in order to give you the answer you seek, I need you to fulfill one request of mine." The king asked, "What is this about?" The blind brother replied, "To do this, I need to be alone with your wife in the room." At first the king was unhappy with this proposal, but eventually agreed and ordered his commander to leave the blind brother and the queen alone in the room. At this point, the blind brother expressed his intention to make physical contact with the queen. The queen reacted angrily to this statement and violently attacked the blind brother, using her limbs and all her strength. After the conflict, the blind man was able to escape and appeared before the king. The blind brother then informed the king, "Your Majesty, your wife is not faithful to you." Enraged, the king drew his sword and walked towards the queen, warning that any lie would lead to her execution. The question was about the queen's loyalty, to which she replied, "Your Majesty, you can take my life, but I have not been faithful." The king was relieved that the blind brother's words were true. Hearing this, He quickly approached the blind brother and asked him how he knew about his wife's betrayal. The blind man replied, "Your Majesty, it was very simple. I told your wife about my desire to touch her, and her reaction was so violent that she began to attack me. Instead of rejecting me, she chose violence by touching me. Now tell me, how can a woman who reacts like that be faithful?" Impressed by the blind man's insight, the king exclaimed, "Your insight is admirable. Let's continue. Give the correct answer to the other question and you will be released," the king asked. "Tell me, am I really the son of my father or another man?" To which the blind brother replied, "Your Majesty, why are you concerned about such a question? The background of your parents does not matter. You are the master of this land. Let such anxiety dissolve." However, the king insisted, "No, I need a specific answer. Otherwise doubts will consume me. I want to know the truth." The blind brother replied, "Your Majesty, I can reveal your origins to you right now, but first I need your promise that you will not react with anger." The king assured, "I promise not to be angry with you." Then the blind brother said, "You are indeed your father's son, but you have also been influenced by the greedy merchant." Hearing this, the king immediately turned to his mother and asked, "Mother, please tell me the truth. Am I really my father's son or someone else? If you don't tell me, I'll renounce my existence right here." The king's mother replied, "Son, you are indeed your father's descendant, but you are also under the influence of a greedy merchant." The delighted king immediately returned to his blind brother and asked, "How did you know that I was influenced by the greedy merchant?" The blind man replied, "Your Majesty, I have answered many of your questions correctly, but still have not received any reward. From this I concluded that you are prone to greed." The king laughed and said, "What you ask for will be given to you, but explain how you distinguish good from evil. How can you give such precise answers?" The blind brother said, "Your Majesty, my blindness is congenital. If I had vision, I could easily understand other people's thoughts. The mind has its own language, reflected in the movements of the body. By observing eyes, lips and gestures, you can understand what is going on in a person's head. But being blind, I perceive through actions. To understand something, I set a task for a person and, based on the results of its completion, I understand what is going on in his head." The king asked, "So, I can also understand the thoughts of others?" To which the blind brother replied, "Undoubtedly, you can also discern the thoughts of others, but first you must work on yourself. This work involves calming the mind and focusing on the present. To do this, today I will show you 3 simple and accessible methods. First of all, please like and subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of content. We have a lot of wisdom for you. Let's move on. Eyes and body expressions are messengers of these emotions. In moments of sadness, they reflect this feeling, and hearty laughter, from which the eyes light up and the cheeks rise, means happiness, goodwill and generosity. The eyes play a key role. When they squint and sparkle, you can be sure that the joy is sincere. Also pay attention to the area between the eyebrows, where tension lines form, often indicating confusion, intense thinking, or trying to understand something difficult. Your Majesty's second method is observing non-verbal language. The body and hands can convey a lot without words, creating a secret language that expresses desires and feelings through subtle gestures. Imagine someone drumming their fingers or making a repetitive tapping sound for some reason while talking to you. This may indicate boredom, rush, or a desire to end the conversation. I remember one day I met a man who was very interested in selling me something. His fingers quickly tapped the item, indicating his disinterest or desire to end our conversation. In contrast, a person who remains still and takes a relaxed posture is showing attention and care. This behavior reflects genuine interest and a desire to listen more. I remember my astute teacher often adopting this position, although he was calm. He leaned in with interest, indicating his desire to delve deeper into the discussion. People who constantly manipulate their face while talking can give you clues about their thoughts. These gestures often indicate anxiety, tense thoughts, or discomfort. In addition, hand movements can tell a lot. For example, if someone quickly touches their nose during a conversation, this may indicate that they are lying or are not being completely honest. Paying attention to how they respond to our words and understanding what is going on in their minds can help us interpret their thoughts. However, before moving on, it is crucial to focus your attention on the present. This is the only way to observe all this behavior. interpret it and understand what is going on in the other person's head. If you get stuck thinking about the past or worrying about the future, you will never be able to grasp the body language of the other person and therefore will not understand their thoughts. Now, Your Majesty, let's move on to the third technique. Before I reveal it, it is important that you focus your mind. By directing our attention to the present moment, we can understand the thoughts of others, especially when they are also focused on the here and now. It is important to move our minds to the present to catch their thoughts. Continuing with the third technique, the blind brother said, King, to understand someone's thoughts, observe their voice. The voice can give away a lot about what a person is thinking and feeling. Fast and disorganized speech can indicate nervousness, anxiety, or agitation. On the other hand, someone who speaks slowly and relaxed is probably calm and collected. In addition, pay attention to the tone of voice. A loud and shrill tone may express anger or frustration, while a soft and calm tone suggests peace and relaxation. I remember talking to someone who claimed to be happy, but his voice was strained and loud. This contradiction raised doubts about his true joy. The voice can also express emotion, as in cases of sighs, screams, or hearty laughter. By paying attention to how they articulate words and use tone, you can easily understand their thoughts and feelings. So there you have it, Your Majesty. Those are the 3 techniques I've shared today. Observe the person's eyes, body language, and voice. Focus on these 3 aspects and you will easily understand the thoughts of any person. However, remember that you must first focus your mind on the present. Only in this way will you be able to observe, interpret, and perceive what is going on in another person's mind. In this way, you will be able to recognize their thoughts and enrich your existence. Thank you for watching this video and I hope you find these tips valuable. Please write in the comments what country you are from.